You check the clock at a red light. 40 seconds left. It feels like forever. Your foot taps, your eyes drift to your phone. Then an hour later, you're deep in a conversation with someone you love, and 3 hours vanish like nothing happened. Same brain, same clock on the wall, two completely different versions of time. You've never noticed it, but your brain has been lying to you about time your entire life. Here's the strange part. There is no clock inside your head, not a real one. Unlike sight, which has your eyes, or hearing, which has your ears, time has no dedicated organ. Your brain builds the feeling of time out of something else entirely. And once you learn what that something is, you'll never trust a clock the same way again. Start with fear. Picture the moment right before a car accident, the split second before impact. Survivors often describe it the same way. Everything slowed down. The windshield cracked in slow motion. There was time to think, to brace, to notice details that shouldn't have been noticeable in half a second. Neuroscientist David Eagleman wanted to know if this slowdown was real or just a trick of memory looking backward. So he built an experiment that, frankly, sounds insane. He had volunteers free-fall backward off a 15-story tower into a safety net while strapped to a wrist device flashing numbers too fast for normal perception to read. If time really slowed down during fear, Eagleman reasoned, people in freefall should be able to read those fast flashing numbers, the way a slow-motion camera captures more frames per second. But that's not what happened. The volunteers couldn't read the numbers any better than they could on the ground. Time didn't actually slow down. What did happen was almost stranger. After the fall, when volunteers estimated how long their own fall took, they consistently overestimated it, sometimes by a third. Their brains hadn't gained superhuman perception. Their brains had written more memory. During intense fear, a brain structure called the amygdala kicks into overdrive, and it floods your memory system with extra detail. More detail gets recorded per second than during ordinary calm moments. And when you look back afterward, your brain measures duration by how much memory got laid down, not by an actual internal stopwatch. More memories packed into an event makes it feel, in hindsight, like it lasted longer. So the slow-motion car crash wasn't your brain speeding up. It was your brain writing a thicker memory file and reading that thickness backward as time. Which raises the obvious question, if time isn't measured by a clock inside you, what is it measured by? This is where a psychologist named Warren Meck spent decades building what's called the internal clock model, though calling it a clock is almost misleading. Meck's research suggests your brain estimates duration using a kind of pulse counting system, something like a pacemaker generating rhythmic pulses and a counter tallying how many pulses occur. Faster pulses, or attention paid to counting them, makes time feel longer. Fewer pulses, or attention pulled elsewhere, makes time feel shorter. Here's where it gets personal. Emotion, attention, and even body temperature all speed up or slow down that internal pulse rate. Fever makes time feel slower. Boredom makes the pulses obvious and countable, stretching each minute. Deep focus, the kind you feel during a gripping movie or an engaging conversation, pulls your attention completely away from counting, and the pulses go uncounted, which is why the hours disappear. Your brain isn't a stopwatch. It's more like an inattentive lifeguard, only checking the clock when it has nothing better to watch. Now here's the twist that makes this stranger still. Time doesn't just distort while it's happening. It distorts differently depending on whether you're inside the moment or looking back at it afterward. And these two versions of time can flatly contradict each other. British researcher Claudia Hammond, after years studying time perception, named this contradiction the holiday paradox. Think about a week-long vacation somewhere unfamiliar. New sights, new routines, new smells and sounds every single day. While you're living through it, especially in the first couple of days, time can feel like it's crawling. So much is new, so much has to be processed. Every hour is packed with fresh information. But afterward, back home, remembering that same week, it feels like it flew by. The whole trip compresses into what feels like a flash. Meanwhile, an uneventful week at your desk, the same commute, the same lunch, the same four walls, often feels like it's speeding by while you're living it. Nothing new demands your attention, so the hours slip past uncounted. But looking back on that week later, there's almost nothing to remember. No new memories were written, so in retrospect, it barely seems to have existed at all. It compresses down to nearly nothing. So a novel week feels slow in the moment and fast in memory. A routine week feels fast in the moment and slow or empty in memory. Time is running two completely different clocks simultaneously, one built from attention in the present and one built from memory density afterward, and they almost never agree. This explains something that probably confuses you every year. Why does childhood summer seem to stretch on forever, while adult years blur together and vanish? A child's every day is soaked in first-time experiences, first bike ride, first best friend, first heartbreak, each one laying down dense, vivid memory. An adult's days repeat the same commute, same desk, same rituals, generating thinner and thinner memory files as the years accumulate. Less new memory written means less duration felt in hindsight. This is why looking back, your 20s can feel longer than your 40s, even though the actual number of days was identical. Your brain isn't measuring the years in seconds, it's measuring them in how much new experience got written down. There's one more twist, and it might be the strangest of all. Sometimes your brain doesn't just distort time, it edits it after the fact and stitches the edit in seamlessly. Look at a clock with a second hand right when you glance at it. Sometimes that very first second looks like it lasts a little longer than the ones that follow. This is called chronostasis, the stopped clock illusion. What's actually happening is your eyes make a tiny rapid jump called a saccade just before you focus on the clock. And during that jump, your visual system goes briefly blind. Rather than showing you a blank gap, your brain fills the missing time with the image you're about to see, backdating it slightly. The result, a second that appears to stretch, purely because your brain quietly patched over its own blind spot. Your brain isn't just measuring time badly, it's editing your footage in real time and hiding the cuts. So think back to that red light. 40 seconds felt endless because your attention had nothing else to do but count each second individually, each pulse landing heavy and obvious. And that 3-hour conversation that vanished, your attention was so consumed by connection that no pulses got counted at all. And yet, because the conversation was rich with genuine new experience, when you look back on it later, it will likely feel like it lasted a long, meaningful while. Full, dense, and real, unlike the routine hours around it that leave almost no trace at all. None of this is a flaw in your brain. It's the entire mechanism working exactly as evolution built it, prioritizing memory and attention over precise measurement, because for most of human history, precise measurement of seconds and minutes never mattered nearly as much as noticing danger, noticing opportunity, noticing each other. You check the clock at a red light, 40 seconds left, and for the first time you understand you're not actually watching a clock at all. You're watching your own attention, counting itself, one uncertain pulse at a time.